Hey guys, I am super stoked to bring you this video today. It's going to be a little bit different than my other videos where I'm going to be breaking down a case study where we automated a consulting firm to save them over $120,000 in 21 days. And this is without interrupting their current processes, modifying their offer, or hiring a VA. For those of you who are unaware, my name is Nick Cornelius. I run an automation agency called BizFlow, and I automate business processes for consultants. In this video, I'm going to break down the exact step-by-step method of how we got Liam a high-ticket business consultant to save over $120,000 per year. Liam saved so much time with these automations, he was able to reinvest his saved time into marketing and sales, allowing him to scale from $40K to $100K per month. Now, before I begin, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, close every other tab except for this one, and pay close attention to the following breakdown. If you plan on scaling your consulting offer and follow exactly what I'm about to show you, you'll be able to get similar results in a very short time frame. Now, before I dive into the specifics of the automation, I wanted to show you a brief testimonial video so there's no mistake that we actually did this.
Hey guys, my name is Liam. I'm the co-founder of Acquisition Systems and Mechanics. We are a consulting company that helps scale fitness coaches past $20,000 a month. And I wanted to make this quick testimonial video for Nick over at BizFlow. So Nick came into our business when we were sitting around the $40K a month mark, and we couldn't really scale any further past that point due to the fact that our infrastructure on the back end and everything back from the sales process wasn't very streamlined. It was very messy. We didn't have any automation set up in place, and it was pretty raw, to be honest. So we started working with Nick, brought him on, and he completely changed the infrastructure within our company. So completely onboarded or automated our onboarding process, everything from there back, dialed in our fulfillment, put in a ton of new systems, so everything was super streamlined, and we were no longer just running all around kind of with our, like a chicken with the head cut off. Everything was streamlined and automated, so we were able to from there take on a lot more clients and scale and actually hit our first six-figure month using and leveraging the systems that he put in place that allowed us to scale to new heights. So if you guys are thinking of working with Nick, I would highly recommend him. He's extremely professional and knows what he's doing. Couldn't recommend him anymore.
Now that we've taken care of that, let's talk about who this automation case study is for. If you sell a high ticket offer and want to streamline your processes and save money, this video is for you. If you spend too much time doing low value tasks and want to lift 10 to 15 hours off your plate per week, this video is for you. If you can't take on any more clients because your processes are restrictive, this video is for you. And if you spend more than 20 seconds onboarding a new client, this video is for you. Now, I don't want to waste your time, so I'm going to go over who this video is not for. If you want to follow the traditional consulting model and not get your clients the best results in the industry, this video is not for you. If you aren't looking to scale your high ticket offer, this video is not for you. If you're looking to make quick cash and not run a proper business, this is not for you. Now, before we hop on the computer and I break down the exact automations that saved Liam over $120K per month, I want to run through some numbers that he gave me. Liam's consulting firm onboards 4 to 7 new clients a week, and it typically takes them around 30 minutes to complete onboarding. So each week, this automation saves them anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. If we multiply that by his hourly rate, Liam is saving between $104,000 to $208,000 per year by running this automation. As you can see, this service is extremely valuable and it's key if you want to take your business to the next level. So without further ado, let's hop on the computer and break down these automations. All right, everyone, we are back at the computer and I'm going to break down the exact automations that I implemented to Liam's business in order to save over $120,000 per year. So we have 3 automations. It is an onboarding workflow. So essentially what happens is a sales form is filled out, a contract is sent over to the client fills out the contract. When that's done, automatically it's going to send the client some onboarding materials. So this is in the form of an email as well as a Google Drive link, which gives them access to the folder. And then it'll invite them to their Slack workspace. And then it'll go ahead, add them to all the respective channels. It'll send welcome messages, as well as add them to a private channel where they can interact with the leaders of the community. So without further ado, I'll hop right into it and I'll break down what the automation entails, every single module, so you can be good to go at your end and save hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So with the first automation is the contract send automation. So we go into contract send. Essentially, it takes a Google form and the information from the Google form is stored in a data store in order to use it within other scenarios. And Make.com calls these automation workflows scenarios. So by storing the information from the Google form in a data store, I can use it in a separate automation. So we start off, we look at the sales form. It's pretty basic. It asks for a first name, last name, email, and a payment option. And this is something that Liam fills out when he's on the call with a potential client or with a future client. And so he's filling this out, and depending on what payment option he chooses, that's going to default to what contract is sent over to that client. So if we look on the back end of this automation, the Google form is submitted. So this is an API connection that I've set up with Google Forms. It's going to take that information, store it in that data store, and it's going to create a custom key. Every single customer needs to have a custom key in order to save different values for their first name, last name, email, and offer. So for example, this custom key, if I were to input Nick in the Google form, the key would be customer-Nick. And then it would also pull my first name, my last name, email, and offer from that Google form. And the way you do this is when you click in these boxes, it'll populate different variables from the Google form. So for example, last name, I would just go to last name answers, text answers, and then grab that last name. So everything's stored in the data store. Now from here, we need to essentially check what offer was chosen and then create the respective contract. In order to do this, I have a router which separates into 3 different routes. So if the 9.8K paid in full contract is chosen, then this route is going to be taken. If the 12.8K half now, half in 30 days is chosen, this contract is going to be created. And if the 12.8K over 3 months is chosen, this contract is going to be created. How I set that up is I have filters. So I just called this the 9.8K PIF for paid in full. And I have a condition where the output of the chosen offer from the Google form must equal 9.8K PIF in order for the automation to go down this route. So if the bubble 9.8K PIF is chosen from that Google form and it's equal to 9.8K PIF, then this one will be chosen. And so what that looks like is it's going to create a new enrollment agreement. It's going to be called the enrollment agreement dash first name and last name. And then it's going to pull a template that we have set up in PandaDoc. And this exact template is the 9.8K PIF template. You'll be able to see that there's other templates for other offers that they have. So there's the 12.8K half and half, and then the 3-month split. And then there's also the access agreement, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, based on the filters we have set up, because this is 9.8K, it's going to use that 9.8K template. It's going to pull the client email directly from the Google form. And so this contract will be emailed to the client. You're going to use the date. And then for the subject of the email, we're going to do ASM enrollment agreement dash their first name. And then here's just a message. Hey, first name. Here's the enrollment agreement for you to complete. Once it's set, you'll be sent an email with the onboarding steps, so you'll be up to speed. Okay, so that's the contract send portion of the automation. So this is an unsigned contract being sent over to the client. They're going to go in, sign it, and then it's going to activate this second portion of the automation. So head over to the contract sign automation. And so here we have a PandaDoc connection that we have set up on the back end of PandaDoc. So whenever someone submits a signed contract, it's going to trigger this automation. And so in order for this automation to be triggered only by those enrollment agreements and not anything else, I have another filter set up. And then the name of that agreement must contain ASM enrollment agreement. If you remember a little bit ago, I said there is an ASM access agreement, which is different than the enrollment agreement. When that ASM access agreement is signed, it doesn't contain a email or an offer associated with it. So downstream of this automation, it's going to mess up some of the processes and it'll actually turn off this whole automation. It's just something built into make.com. When something's failing over and over, it's going to turn off the automation. In order for that not to happen, I have this filter set up so it's only the ASM enrollment agreement, and then everything should run fine. From there, we have a prompt given to ChatGPT, specifically GPT-4, because it has the best processing. Essentially, I told it that I'm going to give it a title of an enrollment agreement and an example. So it's using few-shot learning. If you know what that is, it's giving it a couple examples so that ChatGPT understands the context of what you want it to do. In this example, I want it to input the ASM enrollment agreement with a name, and that's just the title of what it is. And then I want it to output just the first name. And so I give it the actual name, which I pulled from the PandaDoc that has been signed. And it's going to output just the first name. And the reason being is because we can use that first name to access that customer key. So if I do customer dash, in that example, it was Liam, it's going to pull all of Liam's customer data. When that happens, if you remember, it's going to pull the first name, last name, email, and the offer. Now I can send an email to that email that was input into that customer data store. So using that email input here, I'm sending out an onboarding email containing all of the applicable links and directions, the next steps to take once you're onboarded. And now this is coded in HTML. So when you send it out, it's going to be formatted correctly. So if I were to run just this step so you can take a look. It'll go ahead and load this. It'll go ahead and send over that onboarding agreement formatted correctly with all of the links needed. From there, it's going to share a Google Drive link, and it's going to share a Google folder with specifically the reader role. So that way you don't have any clients going in and, they're editing all of your forms, all your documents within that folder. And it's sending over the school folder, which has multiple documents in it. So yeah, you want to make sure that's a reader role. Going to send that over to the email specified in that customer data store. And then I don't have an email message set up since an onboarding message was sent via email. So it's just going to share that document. But based on that onboarding email, it has all the directions. You don't need anything else. From there, I use the sleep tool, which is built into make.com. And essentially what this does is after this Google Drive link is shared, the folder is shared, it's going to wait 10 minutes before it sends this Slack message. So the way make.com works is you can go between 1 second and 300 seconds. So 300 seconds is 5 minutes. And so it's going to wait 5 minutes. It's going to wait 5 minutes. And then it's going to send this message in Slack. And this is a public channel. And we call it the general chat. So it's just going to say, hey, channel, welcome Nick to the group. Nick, please introduce yourself. And it'll tag them as well as tag the channel. So people are just going to say, what's up? They're going to introduce themselves. And then it's going to delete that data store. And the reason being, there is a finite amount of data that can be stored within that data store. So it's kind of just cleaning it up and allowing more people to be able to get stored in that customer data store. Cool. So that's the second portion of the automation. Just to recap, they got sent the onboarding email. They got sent the Google Drive file with all of the applicable documents within it. And then they're already invited to the Slack channel via the onboarding email. And a welcome message has been sent from this point. If we go to the third automation, this is a Slack automation. And this onboards them to their own private channel where they can communicate with Liam as well as the other team members of ASM. And they just have that private channel to be able to communicate. You grab some water. All right, so in automation 3, what's going to happen here is there's a private channel set up. So we go to Slack. And essentially how this automation is set up is we have a public channel here. And when you type into the public channel based on this pinned message, which is defined in the onboarding email, and you follow this kind of format. So if you were to say Liam Adams at gmail.com, it's going to create a new private channel for you, and it's going to invite everyone from ASM that needs to be involved. If I were to go in here and type, we'll just do like Nick Cornelius, Nick at Cornelius.com. Then essentially it's going to start that automation, and it's going to say, welcome to the community, Nick, and it's going to create that new Slack channel. And if we go to the Slack channel, take a look at it. So created a new Slack channel, invited me as well as Ali, Michael, and Vince, who are the other members of ASM. And so if we go back to the automation, now that we've seen that it has run, there is a webhook that is linked to Slack. So when you send a message, it's going to activate that webhook, and then it's going to run a automation in ChatGPT. And this could get a little bit complex, but bear with me. So essentially, there is some sample text, which the sample text is what you put in Slack. And there's 4 pieces of reference text. So the reference text is down here. So reference text 1 is Nick at nickcornelius.com. And so that's just showing like a first name, last name, email. There's reference text 2. And this is just a welcome to the community, Nick. This is what it says once you input this text. Reference text 3. This is what it says if you put something in that doesn't really match text 1, text 2, text 3, or text 4. And then there's reference text 4, which is just when someone joins the channel. And so essentially I have ChatGPT set up to do the logic for me. Based on what is input in Slack, it's going to assign variables. ChatGPT is going to output a variable based on what is said in Slack, and it is then going to filter based on that variable. So if you put a message in with the right context, it's going to output a 1. So if the message content from ChatGPT outputs a 1, then it's going to run this whole portion of the automation. If the text is equal to a 5, then it's going to run this Slack message. And so if we go back, look at the reference text. 1 is the correct notation. And 5, that's when it doesn't match any of the sample text. So specifically, if it resembles less than 50% of any of the sample text, then it's going to output a 5. For the rest of them, it's going to be, it must be higher than 70% for the same type of sentence structure. Okay? So if it's the wrong notation, it's going to send this message that says invalid response, bro, right in the channel. If it's the correct notation, what will happen next is I'm going to give it a first name, a last name, and an email. This is ChatGPT. It's going to output only the first name and then nothing else. So this is taking the message that we input Slack, and it's only going to spit out the first name. Now we have a couple instances of this. We have that again with the last name. So it's collecting over here the first name, over here the last name, and then it's going to collect the same thing for the email. So now we have 3 independent variables that are not linked to that webhook. Now, why this is important is because later on, I'm going to search for a user based on their email. So they don't have a username yet within Slack, or I don't know what it is as far as the automation. So I'm going to use that email in order to find it. From there, it's going to create a new channel with their first name, their last name, and then private. And so how Slack works in terms of notation for channels is everything must be in lowercase. So I'm using this function built into make.com to take something that may have an uppercase letter and turn it into a lowercase letter. So if this is my first name and last name, it's going to be all in lowercase. Next, now that that channel is created, it's going to invite the user ID, which is coming from that search from the user earlier in the automation. And it's also going to grab that channel ID from the channel that we just created. So it's going to create that channel. It's going to add the user from the user that we searched. And then in the last module, it's going to add all of the ASM team members. So if we saw before, it's going to invite Ali. It's going to invite Michael. And it's going to invite Vince. And because this connection is Liam's Slack, Liam is already invited to this, so I don't have to double add him. And so the last thing that I don't think I mentioned was once they're added to the community, it's going to spit out a message that says, welcome to the community with the first name that we gathered earlier. And then it's going to say your Slack channel has been created as this Slack channel, just so you have a response within that onboarding channel that tells you exactly what just happened. They know what to do. So if we go over back to our Slack channel, that is what this message is right here. So I hope you enjoyed this automation from A to Z. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. If you want to work with me, I build automations that save businesses hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Hit the link in my description and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together.